Kim Richards was born September 19, 1964 in Minola, New York, into a family that would use her talent for profit and control her life before she even understood what childhood was supposed to be. At just 4 months old, Kim appeared in her first television commercial for FTH Carpet. By age 4.5, she'd already appeared in 20 TV commercials. Her childhood wasn't hers. It belonged to her mother, Kathleen "Big Kathy" Richards. Note a woman who would exploit her daughter's talent and innocence in ways that would damage Kim for the rest of her life. This is the painful, heartbreaking story of how Kim Richards went from child star to a woman battling demons that were planted decades ago. Big Kathy wasn't just a stage mother. According to the book House of Hilton by Jerry Oppenheimer, she was a controlling nightmare who treated her daughter like a commodity rather than a child. The stories that have emerged about Big Kathy's treatment of Kim are disturbing and explain so much about the addiction and trauma that would follow Kim into adulthood. John Jackson, Kim's ex-boyfriend and the father of her daughter, Kimberly, spoke to Oppenheimer for the book and revealed horrifying details about how Big Kathy controlled Kim. The way she controlled Kim was just unbelievable. Jackson said, "Kim used to tell me stories of when she was 12, 13, and 14 years old, and how she would drive the family car and go pick her mom up at different bars." That's right. Kim was driving illegally as a preteen to pick up her drunk mother from bars because Big Kathy couldn't be bothered to arrange responsible transportation. But it gets worse. Her mom would have men over all the time on different nights of the week, and she'd make Kim perform for them, do little skits and dance. Jackson explained her mom would have her basically perform on cue. She was that typical frustrated mother of a child star living through her children. Big Kathy was using Kim as entertainment for the men she was dating or sleeping with. A child forced to perform on command for strange men in her own home. The exploitation is sickening. Kyle Richards has tried to paint a softer picture of their mother over the years, calling her a rule breaker on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and fondly remembering how she let them drive before they had licenses. But that's called trying to protect a mother who doesn't deserve protection. The truth about Big Kathy is that she stole Kim's childhood and used her as a meal ticket to support the family. From 1970 to 1971, Kim starred as Prudence Everett in the television series Nanny and The Professor when she was just 6 years old. She went on to star in several Disney films, including Escape to Witch Mountain in 1975, No Deposit, No Return, and Return from Witch Mountain in 1978. And she appeared in Different Strokes and Hello, Larry. She was everywhere, constantly working, and all that money went to support Big Kathy and the family. In 2025, it was revealed that even Big Kathy wasn't the only one exploiting Kim's earnings. At BravoCon, Kathy Hilton admitted that she used to trick Kim and Kyle out of the money they earned from their childhood acting jobs. Kathy would sell them their own belongings back to them, items that Big Kathy kept in an off-limits living room. Miss Kathy would convince them to pay double for things that already belonged to them. And then Big Kathy would eventually take everything back anyway. Even Kim's half-sister was scamming her out of money she'd earned as a child. Kim never had a chance at a normal childhood. She was working before she could walk, controlled before she could drive legally, exploited before she understood what that meant. The foundation for addiction and trauma was being laid every single day of her young life. After her second marriage to Greg Davis ended in divorce in 1991, Kim was in a relationship with commodities salesman John J. Collette. But Collette wasn't just a businessman. He was a central figure in a criminal scheme involving 8,000 elderly investors and nearly $150 million in losses. On October 28, 1991, Collette was murdered outside Brent's Deli in Northridge. He was shot twice in the head at point-blank range by a hitman who had been paid $30,000. Here's what makes this absolutely traumatic. Kim was on the phone with Collette when the shooting occurred. She heard him get murdered. She was on the line when the hitman executed him in broad daylight. Kim has said there isn't a day that goes by that she doesn't think about him. That kind of trauma stays with you forever. You don't recover from hearing someone you love get killed while you're talking to them. Kim spoke about Collette's murder on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but the show could never capture the full horror of what she experienced. The nightmares, the survivor's guilt, the fear that she could have been there, too. That murder is one of many tragedies that pushed Kim deeper into addiction as a coping mechanism for pain she couldn't process. Kim has been open about being an alcoholic, finally admitting it publicly at the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 2 reunion. "I'm an alcoholic," she told Andy Cohen in one of the most raw moments in franchise history. But admitting you have a problem and actually conquering it are two completely different things. Kim has said she started drinking at night while caring for her mother, who died in 2002. "I realized I had started to become a person I didn't like and I couldn't stand the sight of myself." Kim revealed the drinking continued after a series of personal tragedies, including Colette's murder and her ex-husband Monty Brinson's battle with cancer. Her first major rehab stint came in December 2011 after her addiction was exposed on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 1. The now infamous limo scene where Kyle screamed at Kim, "Let's talk about your husband." And Kim shot back, "I've had enough of you, you beast." Set off a chain reaction. Meet Kim's addiction was out in the open, and she could no longer hide it. But rehab didn't fix her. On April 15, 2015, Kim was arrested at the Beverly Hills Hotel for public intoxication, trespassing, resisting arrest, and battery on a police officer. She'd been drinking, and when asked to leave the hotel restaurant, where she'd been going since childhood, she refused. When police tried to arrest her, she allegedly fell to the floor and kicked an officer in the leg. She spent the night in Los Angeles County Jail and was released on $20,000 bail. Just days after that arrest, Kim appeared on the Dr. Phil show in what became one of the most painful interviews ever aired. She admitted she'd been lying at the reunion when she claimed she hadn't drunk in over 3 years. "I did have drinks a couple other times over the past few months. It was wine. I was ashamed to say anything at the reunion." Embarrassed, she told Dr. Phil through tears. During the interview, Neen Kim's son Chad confronted her about taking pills and smoking pot. "I live with you," he said. "I'm not saying you're drinking, but you're taking pills. You do this every once in a while. You smoke pot." Kim admitted to smoking pot every once in a while, but insisted she wasn't drinking every day. Dr. Phil tried to get her to go to rehab during the interview, but Kim stormed off the set, yelling, "Here's your microphone. I'm done. I'm leaving." The cameras followed Kim to her hotel room where her children confronted her again, trying to convince her to seek help. It was heartbreaking watching her kids beg their mother to get treatment while she insisted she didn't need it. Eventually, Kim did check herself back into rehab, but the pattern of relapse would continue. Just 4 months later, in August 2015, Kim was arrested again. This time for shoplifting over $600 worth of items from a Target store in San Fernando Valley. And she spent the night in Venice jail and was released after posting $5,000 bail. She pleaded no contest to 1 count of petty theft and was sentenced to 3 years probation, 1 year of mandatory AA meetings, and 300 hours of community service. The shoplifting incident was particularly sad because by this point, Kim was in her 50s. This wasn't a teenager making a stupid mistake. This was a grown woman, a mother of 4, a grandmother, and stealing from Target because her addiction and mental health had deteriorated to the point where she couldn't make rational decisions anymore. Kim's pit bull, Kingsley, became a major storyline on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and a source of family conflict that nearly destroyed her relationship with Kyle permanently. But more importantly, Kingsley was dangerous and Kim refused to see it until it was too late. In 2014, Kingsley allegedly bit Kyle's daughter, Alexia, means sending her to Cedars-Sinai Hospital for 5 days. "Kim, my daughter almost lost her hand. It infected the bone." Kyle screamed at Kim during an episode. "Do you know that Alexia had in 4 with a bag for 3 weeks?" Kim minimized the incident, making excuses for Kingsley and refusing to accept responsibility for the damage her dog had done to her own niece. But that wasn't the only attack. Kim's pit bull also attacked her former neighbor, leading to a lawsuit. Then in 2015, May and the dog attacked Kim's assistant, who also sued. The assistant lawsuit was particularly damning because it detailed a pattern of Kim knowing Kingsley was aggressive and dangerous, but doing nothing to protect the people around him. Kim eventually settled that lawsuit, but she was later ordered to pay $266,000 in damages for the neighbor attack. Kim's refusal to deal with Kingsley appropriately showed a disturbing pattern of denial and enabling her own worst instincts. But she loved that dog more than she cared about the safety of the people around her, including her own family members. It took multiple lawsuits and nearly $4 million in damages before Kim finally gave up Kingsley. The whole situation was emblematic of her inability to see reality clearly and make responsible decisions. The relationship between Kim and Kyle Richards has been documented extensively on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and it's one of the most painful sister dynamics ever shown on reality television. Kyle has oscillated between enabling Kim, abandoning her, and trying to save her, often all in the same season. After Kim's Beverly Hills hotel arrest in April 2015, Kyle didn't speak to her sister for 5 months. Kim revealed on Dr. Phil that Kyle texted her after the arrest for the first time in 5 months, asking if she was okay. That 5-month silence, while Kim spiraled, speaks volumes about how fractured their relationship had become. Kyle has admitted that next to losing her mother, the rift with Kim was the most difficult time of her life. She suffered anxiety and panic attacks over their arrangement. But she's also acknowledged that she doesn't know where the line is between helping Kim and enabling her addiction. Sources close to the family have revealed that Kyle and Kathy Hilton essentially bankroll Kim's life, paying her bills and supporting her financially because Kim can't support herself. The dynamic is toxic for both sisters. Kyle feels responsible for Kim and guilty when she doesn't help, but resentful when her help doesn't fix anything. Kim feels judged and controlled by Kyle, but also dependent on her financially. Neither sister has figured out how to have a healthy relationship, and decades of Big Kathy's manipulation and dysfunction have left them without the tools to repair what's broken. And in September 2024, the estrangement reached a breaking point again. TMZ reported that Kim had relapsed and was living at Kyle's Los Angeles home. When Kim's drinking got out of control, Kyle kicked her out. But Kim showed up at Kyle's property anyway, and police were called. Because it was a civil matter, Kim Snorts was allowed to stay, creating an impossible situation where Kyle couldn't enforce boundaries with her own sister. Earlier that month, Kim had been at a Hilton hotel with Kyle when she got out of control. Kim was incoherent, according to law enforcement, and Kyle tried to escort her from the premises. When Kim refused to leave, she was placed on a $5,150 psychiatric hold and taken to the hospital. After years of sobriety, Kim had fallen off the wagon again, and the entire family, including Kyle and Kathy, reportedly iced her out as a wake-up call. Kim has 4 children. Her relationships with her children have been strained at various times throughout her addiction struggles, and that pain is evident every time she talks about them. During the Dr. Phil intervention in 2015, Kim's children appeared to confront her about her addiction. They'd been let down, disappointed, and hurt repeatedly, but they were still trying to save her. Kim has grandchildren now, but her relationship with them has been complicated by her addiction. There have been periods where Kim was kept away from her grandchildren because the family didn't trust her to be around them while she was using. I imagine being a grandmother and not being allowed to see your grandchildren because you can't stay sober. That's the reality Kim has lived with. At various points, Kim has been estranged from different children, particularly Whitney. There were allegations that Kim borrowed money from her children that she couldn't pay back. There were concerns about her judgment and her ability to be a reliable presence in their lives. The addiction didn't just hurt Kim, it meant it damaged every relationship she had with the people who loved her most. In September 2024, Kim relapsed again after reportedly being sober for 5 years. She was 59 years old, approaching 60, and she was back at square one. The psychiatric hold at the Hilton, the police being called to Kyle's house. The entire family cutting her off as a wake-up call. After decades of battling addiction, Kim was once again at rock bottom. What makes this relapse particularly heartbreaking is the timing. Kim should be enjoying her golden years as a grandmother. She should be reflecting on a full life and spending time with family. Instead, she's starting over with sobriety in her 60s, trying to repair relationships that have been broken and rebuilt multiple times, fighting demons that have haunted her since childhood. Kim has said she loves sobriety and that relapsing is very hard for her. "I've always loved sobriety, and relapsing was very hard for me. It was not easy," as she told Entertainment Tonight in 2015, she wanted to go to treatment because she needed a break from what she was going through at home. But wanting sobriety and maintaining it are different things, especially when you have 6 decades of trauma, exploitation, and pain fueling the addiction. As of early 2026, Kim has largely stayed out of the public eye. She's appeared briefly on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in recent seasons, usually to offer Kyle support during her own crisis. At BravoCon 2023, Kyle said Kim hasn't really left the house since lockdown, that she's been busy with her grandchildren and living her life. But that description sounds more like isolation than healthy retirement. Kim is not on social media much. She doesn't do interviews. She's essentially disappeared from the spotlight she once dominated as a child star. Whether that's because she's protecting her sobriety by avoiding triggers or because she's still struggling privately, we don't know. What we do know is that Kim Richards' life has been marked by pain at every stage. Everything Kim has endured can be traced back to Big Kathy's exploitation. The child star who was forced to work before she could walk. The teenager who drove illegally to pick up her drunk mother from bars. The young girl who performed on command for her mother's boyfriends. That's where the trauma started and it never ended. Big Kathy died in 2002. But her legacy of control, manipulation and exploitation lived on in Kim's addiction, in her inability to set boundaries, in her fractured relationships with her sisters and children. Kyle has tried to protect their mother's reputation by calling her a rule breaker and painting her as quirky rather than abusive. But the truth, documented in House of Hilton and confirmed by people who knew the family, is that Big Kathy destroyed Kim's life before it really began. The most tragic part of Kim's story is that she never had a chance. She was born into a family that saw her as a commodity. She was exploited by the mother who was supposed to protect her. She was thrust into Hollywood before she understood what that meant. And when the trauma of all that exploitation manifested as addiction, she was judged, arrested, and publicly humiliated rather than given the compassion and help she deserved. Kim Richards is still alive, still fighting, still trying at 60 years old to build a life that isn't defined by addiction and pain. But the scars from Big Kathy, from decades of trauma, from lost time and broken relationships, those scars are permanent. This is the painful life of Kim Richards, a woman who deserved so much better than what she got. Kim Richards' story isn't just about addiction. It's about a childhood stolen, decades lost, and trauma that started before she could even understand what was happening to her. From child star to psychiatric holds at 60,